The massive ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. Its silver hull gleamed in the sunlight as it hovered above the blue planet. After decades of searching the stars, aliens had finally come to Earth. But they did not come to conquer. They came with an invitation. 6 months later, the United Solar Military Academy buzzed with excitement. Earth had officially joined the Galactic Confederation, and today marked the first day of the military exchange program. 4 human cadets had been selected to train under alien instructors, a rare honor for a planet so new to space politics. Lisa Nichols straightened her uniform and checked her reflection one last time. At 23, she was the youngest cadet chosen for the program. Her tactical scores were the highest the Academy had seen in decades, though her instructors often noted her problem with authority in her file. "Ready for this?" asked Alan Reeves, appearing beside her. Alan's fingers constantly moved, building invisible machines in the air, a habit that annoyed most people but had helped him redesign the Academy's training simulators last year. Lisa nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." They joined the other 2 selected cadets in the hallway. Olivia Martinez stretched her long limbs with the careful precision of her former Olympic training. John Perry stood perfectly still, his calm eyes taking in everything around him. "I heard the Zolarians have 3 hearts," Olivia said. Alan shook his head. 2 hearts, 1 auxiliary circulatory organ. "Show off," Lisa teased. John smiled slightly. "They also have an entirely different concept of military hierarchy. This should be interesting." A bell rang through the hall and the 4 cadets fell silent. The doors to the main hall slid open, revealing 4 tall figures standing on the platform. The Zolarians stood at least 7 feet tall, with iridescent blue skin that seemed to shift in the light. Their large eyes, completely black, surveyed the room with obvious judgment. Captain Samantha Wright stepped forward. "Cadets, I present our honored guests from the Galactic Confederation. Commander Zrel, Lieutenant Vex, Combat Specialist Mira, and Science Officer Drell will be instructing you for the next 8 weeks." Commander Zrel stepped forward. His uniform, a fitted silver material that seemed to move like liquid, gleamed under the lights. "We are here to evaluate Earth's military readiness and bring your training up to minimal Confederation standards." The way he said minimal made Lisa's jaw tighten. "While your species has shown remarkable advancements for your limited time in space," Zrel continued, "you remain centuries behind the Confederation in tactics, technology, and discipline." Olivia crossed her arms. John placed a warning hand on her shoulder. "The 4 of you will undergo intensive training in Confederation methods. Those who succeed may qualify for further education at the Galactic Academy." Zrel's eyes narrowed. "Though I must warn you, no species has qualified during their first evaluation period." "First time for everything," Lisa muttered. Alan nudged her to be quiet. Lieutenant Vex stepped for Dawn came too quickly. The 4 human cadets stood in the training yard as the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon. Despite the early hour, the air already felt heavy with heat. "Attention!" Commander Zrel's voice cut through the morning calm. The 4 Zolarian officers approached in perfect formation, their blue skin almost purple in the morning light. "Today we begin with physical assessment," Zrel said. "Confederation soldiers must meet specific physical standards regardless of species." Science Officer Drell stepped forward with a device in her 3-fingered hand. "We will measure your endurance, strength, and adaptability to stress." The tests began simply enough. Running, climbing, and lifting weights that seemed designed for beings much larger than humans. Olivia took the lead, her athletic background giving her an edge. "Your oxygen intake is inefficient," Drell noted as she scanned Olivia after a 5-mile run. "Yet your time exceeds our expectations." Olivia smiled between deep breaths. "Humans are persistence hunters. We're built for endurance." Drell tilted her head, clearly confused. "Fascinating. Your species hunted by chasing prey until exhaustion? Primitive, but effective." Next came combat training. Combat Specialist Mira demonstrated a series of movements that the humans were expected to copy. Her limbs moved with incredible speed and precision. "Your joints are limited," Mira noted with disapproval as John struggled with a particular twist. "This makes Xelarian combat techniques difficult for your species." "Perhaps," John said politely, "but humans have developed combat styles suited to our anatomy." Mira's black eyes narrowed. "Confederation protocols require standard techniques across all member species. Even when they're physically impossible for some species?" Lisa asked. "The techniques can be adapted," Mira replied stiffly, "though rarely are they improved upon." After combat came tactical simulations. The cadets were led to a room filled with holographic displays. Commander Zrel activated a scenario showing a space battle between two fleets. "This is a historical battle from the Third Confederation War," Zrel explained. "Analyze the situation and determine the optimal response." The cadets studied the display. Lisa stepped forward first. "The defending fleet should split their forces here and here," she pointed, creating a pincer movement while protecting their supply lines. Zrel looked surprised, then displeased. "That is one approach. However, Confederation doctrine clearly states that maintaining formation integrity takes precedence over offensive opportunities, even when the enemy has exposed their flank." Lisa asked. "Especially then," Zrel replied. "Your human instinct for aggression would lead to chaos in real battle." Lisa bit her tongue, but couldn't stay silent. "With respect, Commander, I've studied Earth's naval history. Sometimes controlled chaos is exactly what wins battles." The room fell silent. The other cadets held their breath. Zrel's voice became dangerously quiet. "In my 300 years of service, I have commanded more battles than your entire species has fought in space." The day continued with engineering challenges. Lieutenant Vex presented Alan with a damaged Confederation power module. "Repair this using only these tools," she instructed. Alan studied the alien technology, his fingers twitching with excitement. After 20 minutes, he not only repaired the module but improved its efficiency. Vex inspected his work with disbelief. "You modified the containment field." "It was leaking energy at the seams," Alan explained. "I redirected the flow to create a self-reinforcing loop." "That is unorthodox," Vex said, "and potentially dangerous." "But it works better," Alan pointed out. As the sun set, the exhausted cadets gathered in their quarters. "They don't think much of us," Olivia said, massaging her sore muscles. John sighed. "They have thousands of years of space travel experience. We have decades." "Experience doesn't equal innovation," Lisa argued. "They keep dismissing our approaches without even considering them." Alan nodded. "I heard them talking. They think we're unpredictable. Like that's a bad thing." "Maybe it's our advantage," Lisa said with a small smile. "They don't know what to expect from us." "Tomorrow will be worse," John warned. "But I think we can surprise them." Ward, her movements fluid like water. "Your planet's military leaders have provided training facilities that we have adapted to meet basic requirements. We begin at dawn tomorrow." The four aliens turned in perfect unison and exited the hall, leaving the human officers and cadets in silence. Captain Wright sighed. "Well, they're as warm and fuzzy as we expected." "They think we're primitives," Lisa said. "Then we'll just have to surprise them," John replied calmly. Captain Wright looked at the four cadets with concern and pride. "You're representing not just the Academy, but all of humanity. This exchange program could open doors for Earth's integration into the Confederation, or it could set us back decades." Alan's fingers twitched nervously. "No pressure, right?" Olivia grinned. "I like a challenge." As they left the hall, Lisa glanced back at the door where the aliens had disappeared. 8 weeks to prove ourselves to a species that's been traveling the stars since we were inventing the wheel." She smiled. "Let's show them what humans can do." 2 weeks passed. The training grew harder each day. The human cadets woke with sore muscles and tired minds, but none complained. They knew what was at stake. Week 3 began with Commander Zrel announcing a special challenge. "Today you face The Koblex scenario, he said, his voice echoing in the simulation chamber. No cadet in Confederation history has ever completed it successfully. The four humans exchanged glances. Lisa couldn't help but smile. An impossible test seemed like a perfect opportunity. The scenario simulates a diplomatic station under attack by unknown forces, Zrel explained. You must defend the civilians, identify the attackers, and neutralize the threat. John raised his hand. Are we allowed to know the victory conditions? Zrel's expression remained stern. Survival of at least 60% of civilians and identification of the hostile force. The cadets entered the simulation one by one. Alan went first, focusing on defensive systems. He lasted 30 minutes before the simulation ended in failure. Olivia tried next, taking a more aggressive approach. She lasted 40 minutes. John's diplomatic skills got him the furthest, nearly an hour, but he too failed. Lisa entered the chamber last. The simulation began, and she found herself in a control room of an unfamiliar station. Alarms blared as reports of attackers came from all directions. She studied the station layout and noticed something odd. The attack seemed too perfect, too coordinated. Rather than react to each crisis as it appeared, Lisa stepped back. Computer, show me all communication channels, including maintenance systems, she commanded. A pattern emerged. Lisa smiled and began typing rapidly. Instead of fighting the attackers directly, she created a false emergency in the station's reactor core. When the attackers changed their pattern to respond to this new threat, she traced their communications. The call is coming from inside the house, she muttered to herself, remembering an old Earth movie. With a few more commands, Lisa locked down a section of the station where the false communications originated. The attacks suddenly stopped. When she sent security teams to the locked section, they discovered the unknown attackers were actually disguised station security officers. The simulation ended. Lisa stepped out to find the four Zalarians staring at her with what she could only interpret as shock. That is impossible, Commander Zrel said. You found the infiltrators. Lisa shrugged. It seemed weird that the attacks were so perfectly timed. Real attacks are chaotic. These were too coordinated. That is not the approved solution path, Lieutenant Vex said. The scenario is designed to teach proper Confederation emergency protocols, which require losing 40% of civilians, Lisa asked. I'm sorry, but that wasn't acceptable to me. You cheated, Zrel said coldly. You ignored the direct attack to look for patterns that cadets aren't expected to find. With respect, sir, John interrupted, stepping forward. Cadet Nichols applied creative problem-solving to accomplish the mission objectives. That's not cheating. It's good leadership. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Finally, combat specialist Mira spoke. Humans approach problems unusually. Unusually or not, the civilians survived, Lisa said. Commander Zrel dismissed them shortly. After that evening, as the cadets ate dinner, Alan's tablet beeped. He had been running a program to monitor Confederation communications. Guys, you need to see this, he said quietly. They gathered around his screen. He had intercepted a report from Commander Zrel to Confederation headquarters. Human cadets continued to display day the next morning. The cadets arrived early for training. Each carried notes they had studied late into the night. Confederation protocols, Zalarian combat stances, and standard operating procedures. Lieutenant? Vex looked surprised when Alan recited the proper sequence for Confederation engine repairs perfectly. When she presented him with a damaged power coupling, he fixed it exactly as the manual instructed. No improvements, no innovations. You followed the protocol precisely, Vex said, examining his work. Alan nodded. Just as the Confederation recommends, Lieutenant? A similar scene played out with Olivia and combat specialist Mira. Instead of adapting the moves to her human form, Olivia had spent hours stretching to match the Zalarian combat forms. Her muscles ached, but she performed each stance with textbook precision. Mira circled her slowly. Your form is correct. though I sense you are in pain. Nothing I can't handle, Olivia replied through gritted teeth. John threw himself into diplomatic protocols, memorizing all 76 steps of Confederation first contact procedures. During simulations, he followed each step without deviation. Science. Officer Drell observed him with growing curiosity. You have abandoned your human improvisational approach. The Confederation way has centuries of refinement behind it, John replied politely. Who am I to question it? Lisa took the most dramatic approach. During tactical simulations, she ignored her instincts and applied Confederation doctrine to the letter. When a scenario arose where splitting forces would have been more effective, she maintained formation as Zrel had insisted. The commander watched her with narrowed eyes. You are not suggesting alternative approaches today, Cadet Nichols. I'm trying to understand Confederation wisdom, sir, she replied evenly. For 3 days the cadets maintained this strategy. The Zalarians grew increasingly confused by the sudden change. On the 4th day everything changed. As they prepared for another simulation, the ground beneath them shook violently. Earthquake, Lisa shouted as ceiling panels began to fall. Commander. Zrel looked genuinely alarmed. This facility was built on stable ground. This should not be possible. Emergency lights flashed on as the main power failed. Alan checked his tablet. The local fault line shifted. It's a 6.3 magnitude quake. We must evacuate, Lieutenant Vex said. Confederation protocol for natural disasters requires... She was cut off as another violent shake sent a support beam crashing down, blocking the main exit. The protocol won't work, Lisa said quickly. This building wasn't constructed to Confederation specifications. We need to adapt. For a moment, no one moved. Then Commander Zrel nodded slowly. What do you suggest? Lisa turned to her fellow cadets. Alan, what's the structural weak point? Alan's fingers flew over his tablet. East wall. It's thinner there because of the ventilation system. Olivia, can you make an opening? Olivia nodded and moved to a maintenance panel, pulling out tools. I'll need help. John, any civilians in the building? Lisa asked. 2 technicians in the lower level, he replied, checking the security feed on his tablet. Commander Zrel watched as the humans organized themselves without hesitation. When Lisa turned to him, he spoke before she could. What do you need from us? Your strength, she replied. Solarians are stronger than humans. We'll need that to clear debris and hold supports. The mixed team worked together as aftershocks, continued to shake the building. Olivia and Mira created an escape route through the east wall. Alan and Vex stabilized the power systems to prevent fires. John and Drell located and rescued the technicians. When they finally emerged into the sunlight, dust-covered and exhausted, something had changed between them. They had worked together not as instructors and students, but as equals. Later, as they rested in the emergency shelter, Commander Zrel approached Lisa. Your response was not according to protocol, he said. Lisa tensed, preparing for criticism. It was better, Zrel continued, surprising her. You adapted to the situation rather than forcing the situation to fit our protocols. That's the human way, Lisa replied. Perhaps. Zrel hesitated. There is value in your way as well as ours. Alan joined them, his tablet in hand. Commander, I've been analyzing the quake data. This wasn't natural. The seismic pattern shows artificial triggers. Everyone fell silent. Someone caused this earthquake? Olivia asked. Someone is testing us, John said quietly. Jirus unpredictability, Alan read aloud. Their refusal to follow established protocols makes them potentially problematic allies. I recommend limited integration of Earth forces into Confederation operations. Olivia slammed her hand on the table. After everything we've done, they're afraid of us, John said thoughtfully. Our approaches are too different from what they're used to. Lisa stood up, determination in her eyes. Then we need to show them different isn't dangerous. We need to prove humans are worth having as allies. How? Alan asked. By beating them at their own game, Lisa replied. Starting tomorrow, we learn to do things their way, but better. 3 days after the earthquake, training resumed in a temporary facility. The mood had changed. The Zalarian instructors no longer treated the human cadets with open dismissal. A cautious respect had formed between them. Morning exercises had just ended when Captain Wright rushed into the training yard. Her face was tense. "We have a situation," she announced. "The Orion space station has been attacked." Everyone gathered around as she activated a holographic display. The Orion station, a massive civilian research facility, appeared rotating slowly in the projection. "The station sent a distress signal 1 hour ago," Captain Wright explained. "They reported armed intruders had seized control of the main hub and taken hostages." Commander Zrel stepped forward. "This station is within Confederation-protected space. Who would dare attack it?" "Unknown," Captain Wright replied. "But the station has gone silent. All attempts at communication have failed." John studied the hologram. "How many civilians on board?" "Over 200 researchers and support staff from 12 different species." Zrel turned to his fellow officers. "We must inform Confederation Command immediately. Standard protocol requires a full battle group response." Captain Wright shook her head. "That's why I came directly to you. Our communications array was damaged in the earthquake. Long-range communications are down. The nearest Confederation vessel is 3 days away." Silence fell over the group as they realized the implications. "The Orion station is only 6 hours from Earth by shuttle," Lisa said quietly. Olivia nodded. "We could reach them before anyone else." "Out of the question," Zrel said firmly. "This is no training exercise. This is a real crisis requiring experienced personnel." Captain Wright looked uncomfortable. "All our senior officers are at the North American Conference. You 8 are the only military personnel with space combat training currently available." Alan checked his tablet. "The station's life support systems will start failing within 24 hours if the main hub remains locked down. They don't have 3 days." Commander Zrel and Lieutenant Vex exchanged looks. Combat Specialist Mira crossed her arms. "We are instructors, not a rescue team," Zrel stated. "People will die if we do nothing," Lisa argued. Science Officer Drell spoke up for the first time. "The human cadets have shown an unexpected abilities. Perhaps together we could attempt a rescue." All eyes turned to Zrel. As the highest-ranking officer present, the decision was his. His internal struggle was visible on his face. "Confederation protocol clearly states," he began. "With respect, Commander," John interrupted. "Sometimes, protocol must yield to necessity." Zrel looked at each of the humans, then at his fellow Zalarians. Finally, he nodded once. "We will attempt a rescue mission, but we do this by the book." Within an hour, they boarded an Academy shuttle. The humans sat on one side, the Zalarians on the other. Lisa noticed how the aliens seemed tense in the confined space. "First real mission," Olivia whispered to her. "Nervous?" "Terrified," Lisa admitted, "but also ready." Alan worked at the shuttle's controls with Lieutenant Vex watching his every move. John and Commander Zrel discussed tactical options, their earlier friction temporarily set aside by the Mayao crisis. As Earth shrank behind them, Commander Zrel addressed the group. "We face unknown enemies in unknown numbers. Our priority is civilian safety, not engaging the hostile force." "Standard Confederation approach?" Lisa asked. "Yes. We will secure the environment systems first, then establish a safe zone for civilians, before attempting to retake the command hub." Lisa nodded, though she had her doubts about such a careful approach. But this wasn't a simulation. The darkness of the station greeted them. Emergency lights cast long shadows down the corridors. The air felt cold and stale. "Life support is running on backup power," Alan whispered, checking his scanner. "Main systems are locked down from the command hub." Commander Zrel activated a holographic map of the station. "We will proceed according to Confederation Rescue Protocol. First, secure the environmental control room, then locate civilians." "Where would the attackers keep hostages?" John asked. "The main dining hall would be the logical choice," Science Officer Drell replied. "It's the largest open space on the station." Zrel nodded. "We will split into 2 teams. Lieutenant Vex, Officer Drell, and Cadets Reeves and Perry will secure life support. The rest of us will scout the dining hall. As they prepared to separate, Lisa spoke up. Commander, with respect, I don't think we should follow standard procedure here. Everyone looked at her in surprise. The attackers will expect a Confederation response, she continued. They'll be prepared for your tactics. Zrell's expression hardened. This is not a training exercise, Cadet Nichols. We cannot experiment with lives at stake. That's exactly why we shouldn't be predictable, Lisa argued. I have another idea. Commander Zrell looked like he wanted to refuse, but after a moment's hesitation, he asked, What do you propose? Lisa quickly outlined her plan. Instead of splitting into 2 equal teams, they would create a diversion team and an infiltration team. The diversion would make enough noise to draw the attackers' attention, while the infiltration team would use the station's maintenance tunnels to reach the command hub directly. It's too risky, Lieutenant Vex said. Confederation protocol exists for a reason. The protocol assumes we have superior numbers and firepower, Lisa pointed out. We have neither. A tense silence followed. Finally, John spoke. I've studied every major station hijacking in Confederation history. In each case, the attackers were prepared for standard responses. The human plan has merit, Combat Specialist Mira admitted reluctantly. Unexpected approaches can be effective when outnumbered. All eyes turned to Commander Zrell. His internal struggle was visible. Very well, he said finally. We will try the human approach. They rearranged their teams. Commander Zrell, Science Officer Drell, and John would create the diversion. The others would attempt the infiltration through the maintenance tunnels. They separated. Zrell caught Lisa's arm. If this fails, he began. It won't, she replied with more confidence than she felt. Lisa led her team through narrow maintenance shafts. The spaces were particularly tight for the tall Zellarians. Lieutenant Vex had to crawl in some sections. Humans are well suited for these confined spaces, Mira observed as they squeezed through a tight junction. We evolved as cave explorers and tunnel diggers, Olivia explained. Small spaces don't bother us much. Alan consulted his tablet. Life support control should be just ahead. After that, we're 3 levels below the command hub. They reached a small control room filled with humming machinery. Alan immediately went to work, his fingers flying over the alien controls. Can you restore full life support? Lisa asked. Alan nodded. The attackers only locked out the controls. They didn't damage the physical systems. How long? Lieutenant Vex asked. 5 minutes. Maybe less. As Alan worked, they heard distant sounds of weapons fire. The diversion team had engaged the enemy. They're drawing fire from the dining hall, Olivia reported, checking her communications device. John says there are at least 12 attackers, heavily armed. Lisa's heart sank. 12? That's more than we expected. Lieutenant Vex looked grim. The diversion team is outnumbered. System restored, Alan announced. The lights brightened throughout the station. Now for the hard part, Lisa said. We need to reach the command hub. They climbed through more maintenance shafts until they reached a small access panel. On the other side was the corridor leading to the command hub. 2 guards at the door, Olivia whispered, peering through a small gap. They look like Draxians. Lisa frowned. Draxians? They're Confederation members. This is not a simple pirate attack, Lieutenant Vex said quietly. This is something worse. A Confederation civil conflict? Mira suggested. The implications were serious. If Confederation species were fighting each other, Earth could be dragged into an interstellar civil war. How do we proceed? Vex asked, looking at Lisa. Lisa felt the weight of the decision. It was the first time a Zellarian officer had genuinely asked for her input. We stick to the plan, she said firmly. But we need to capture one alive. We need answers. Real lives were at stake. 5 hours later, the shuttle approached the Orion station. From the outside, it looked untouched, spinning peacefully in space. But as they drew closer, Alan pointed to a small docking bay on the lower section. Look, there. The airlock's been forced open. Commander Zrell's expression darkened. Prepare for docking. From this moment on, we are in hostile territory. As the shuttle connected with the station, Lisa caught Zrell's eye. For the first time, she saw uncertainty in the commander's gaze. We will succeed, she told him firmly. How can you be so confident? He asked. Because we have to, she replied. There's no other option. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The real test was about to begin. The darkness of the station greeted them. Emergency lights cast long shadows down the corridors. The air felt cold and stale. Life support is running on backup power, Alan whispered, checking his scanner. Main systems are locked down from the command hub. Commander Zrell activated a holographic map of the station. We will proceed according to Confederation Rescue Protocol. First, secure the environmental control room, then locate civilians. Where would the attackers keep hostages? John asked. The main dining hall would be the logical choice, Science Officer Drell replied. It's the largest open space on the station. Zrell nodded. We will split into 2 teams. Lieutenant Vex, Officer Drell, and Cadets Reeves and Perry will secure life support. The rest of us will scout the dining hall. As they prepared to separate, Lisa spoke up. Commander, with respect, I don't think we should follow standard procedure here. Everyone looked at her in surprise. The attackers will expect a Confederation response, she continued. They'll be prepared for your tactics. Zrell's expression hardened. This is not a training exercise, Cadet Nichols. We cannot experiment with lives at stake. That's exactly why we shouldn't be predictable, Lisa argued. I have another idea. Commander Zrell looked like he wanted to refuse, but after a moment's hesitation he asked, What do you propose? Lisa quickly outlined her plan. Instead of splitting into 2 equal teams, they would create a diversion team and an infiltration team. The diversion would make enough noise to draw the attackers' attention, while the infiltration team would use the station's maintenance tunnels to reach the command hub directly. It's too risky, Lieutenant Vex said. Confederation protocol exists for a reason. The protocol assumes we have superior numbers and firepower, Lisa pointed out. We have neither. A tense silence followed. Finally, John spoke. I've studied every major station hijacking in Confederation history. In each case, the attackers were prepared for standard responses. The human plan has merit, combat specialist Mira admitted reluctantly. Unexpected approaches can be effective when outnumbered. All eyes turned to Commander Zrell. His internal struggle was visible. Very well, he said finally. We will try the human approach. They rearranged their teams. Commander Zrell, Science Officer Drell, and John would create the diversion. The others would attempt the infiltration through the maintenance tunnels. As they separated, Zrell caught Lisa's arm. If this fails, he began. It won't, she replied with more confidence than she felt. Lisa led her team through narrow maintenance shafts. The spaces were particularly tight for the tall Zalarians. Lieutenant Vex had to crawl in some sections. Humans are well suited for these confined spaces, Mira observed as they squeezed through a tight junction. We evolved as cave explorers and tunnel diggers, Olivia explained. Small spaces don't bother us much. Alan consulted his tablet. Life support control should be just ahead. After that, we're 3 levels below the command hub. They reached a small control room filled with humming machinery. Alan immediately went to work, his fingers flying over the alien controls. Can you restore full life support? Lisa asked. Alan nodded. The attackers only locked out the controls. They didn't damage the physical systems. How long? Lieutenant Vex asked. 5 minutes. Maybe less. As Alan worked, they heard distant sounds of weapons fire. The diversion team had engaged the enemy. They're drawing fire from the dining hall, Olivia reported, checking her communications device. John says there are at least 12 attackers heavily armed. Lisa's heart sank. 12? That's more than we expected. Lieutenant Vex looked grim. The diversion team is outnumbered. System restored, Alan announced. The lights brightened throughout the station. Now for the hard part, Lisa said. We need to reach the command hub. They climbed through more maintenance shafts until they reached a small access panel. On the other side was the corridor leading to the command hub. 1 week after the Orion Station incident, the 4 human cadets stood at attention in the main hall of the United Solar Military Academy. The room was filled with high-ranking officers from both Earth and the Confederation. Captain Wright stood at the podium, her face proud. "For extraordinary service beyond the call of duty," she announced, "I present these commendations to cadets, Nichols, Reeves, Martinez, and Perry." One by one, the cadets stepped forward to receive their medals. Lisa noticed Commander Zrel and the other Zalarian officers watching from the side of the stage. For once, the aliens looked genuinely pleased. After the ceremony, many officials wanted to speak with the cadets. The questioning of the Draxian prisoners had revealed a plot by a separatist faction within the Confederation. The Draxians had hoped that a failed rescue attempt would drive a wedge between Earth and the Confederation. "Instead, you strengthened our alliance," a Confederation admiral told them. "Your actions showed what humans can bring to our collective defense." Later, as the crowd thinned, Commander Zrel approached the cadets. He seemed different now, less rigid, more thoughtful. "I have been instructed to inform you," he said formally, "that all 4 of you have been invited to continue your training at the Galactic Academy." The cadets exchanged shocked glances. No species had ever been invited to the Galactic Academy after just 1 evaluation period. "Really?" Alan asked. "Even after we broke so many protocols?" "Perhaps because you broke them," Zrel replied with what might have been a smile. "The Confederation has existed for thousands of years. In that time, we have developed effective methods and protocols. But we have also become predictable. That's dangerous in warfare," Lisa noted. "Precisely. Your human unpredictability, your creativity. These are qualities the Confederation needs." Zrel paused. "My report to headquarters was quite different from my initial assessment." John looked curious. "What did you say about us? That humans approach problems in ways no other species considers. That your adaptability makes you invaluable allies. And that surrendering command to Cadet Nichols was the most logical decision I have made in 300 years of service." Olivia grinned. "You really said that?" "I did. And I meant it." Zrel's expression grew serious. "In my long career, I have never encountered a species that could change my mind about proper military doctrine, until now." A chime sounded indicating the reception was ending. Commander Zrel straightened his uniform. "We depart tomorrow," he said. "Our teaching assignment on Earth is complete." "Will we see you again?" Lisa asked. "Sooner than you might think. I have requested to serve as your advisor at the Galactic Academy." Zrel hesitated, then added, "If you would find that acceptable." Lisa smiled. "We'd be honored, Commander." The next morning, the cadets gathered to say goodbye to their alien instructors. What had begun as a tense relationship had transformed into genuine respect. "Remember," combat specialist Mira told Olivia, "maintain your human fighting style. It complements our techniques in ways we never considered." Science Officer Drell handed John a data crystal. "I have compiled cultural information that might assist your diplomatic studies." Lieutenant Vex actually embraced Alan, a shocking breach of Zalarian protocol. "Your innovations have merit, Cadet Reeves. Never stop questioning our designs." Finally, Commander Zrel faced Lisa. The tall alien looked down at her with an expression she now recognized as admiration. "6 weeks ago, I came to Earth believing I would teach humans the proper way to join the Confederation," he said quietly. "Instead, you taught me that there is no single proper way to solve a problem. That's the most human lesson of all." "Lisa," replied Commander Zrel, held out his hand in the human gesture of friendship he had once dismissed as primitive. Lisa took it firmly. "Until the Academy, Cadet Nichols." "Until then, Commander." As the Zalarians boarded their ship, Captain Wright joined the cadets. "You've changed how the Confederation sees humanity," she said. "That's more important than any rescue mission." "We just did what seemed right," John said. Captain Wright smiled. And that's exactly why they surrendered to your methods. You showed them something they'd forgotten in thousands of years of protocol. Sometimes the right answer isn't in any manual. The cadets watched the alien ship rise into the morning sky, carrying officers who had arrived as skeptical instructors and departed as genuine allies. So, Olivia said with a grin, who's ready for the Galactic Academy? Lisa looked at her friends, remembering how far they had come in just 8 weeks. From being dismissed as primitives to earning the highest honor in the Confederation. They won't know what hit them, she replied, smiling up at the stars that suddenly seemed much closer than before. 2 guards at the door, Olivia whispered, peering through a small gap. They look like Draxians. Lisa frowned. Draxians? They're Confederation members. This is not a simple pirate attack, Lieutenant Vex said quietly. This is something worse. A Confederation civil conflict? Mira suggested. The implications were serious. If Confederation species were fighting each other, Earth could be dragged into an interstellar civil war. How do we proceed? Vex asked, looking at Lisa. Lisa felt the weight of the decision. It was the first time a Zalarian officer had genuinely asked for her input. We stick to the plan, she said firmly. But we need to capture one alive. We need answers.